days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Game preview show. Everything that we went through during the week brought to you into one single episode. And this is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about the injuries. We're going to talk about the starting lineups, the key matchups. We're going to get into bold predictions. We're going to talk about everything that has to go into this game and set it up. Sunday Night Football, prime time, Levi Stadium. It's going to be electric. I absolutely can't wait for this game because the 49ers got a rebound off of a tough loss last week to Tampa Bay. And it doesn't get easier because the Atlanta Falcons come to town coming off their best performance of the season against the Buffalo Bills. What they were able to do against Josh Allen and that offense, what they were able to do, as far as scoring the football, it was impressive. And so the Atlanta Falcons are coming in, and they're on an upward trajectory right now. The 49ers are dealing with a little bit of change. They got some change in the secondary. They got change at linebacker. They're re-adding in a couple of guys to this roster. And so you're having a little bit of a state of flux for the 49ers, and for the Falcons, it feels like they're somewhat rolling. And if you look at the records, though, 49ers are 4-2. Atlanta Falcons are 3-2. They've already had their bye. Coming off their bye, they played the Buffalo Bills. Huge advantage there. 49ers do have a rest advantage over the Atlanta Falcons. One day, how much does that matter? Well, we've seen the 49ers have rest disadvantages a lot over the last several years, and it can matter, especially when you're coming across country. Now, these two teams are former division rivals, which is still shocking considering when I grew up, the NFC West had the New Orleans Saints and Atlanta Falcons in it. But that's kind of what this is a old division rival. But in the grand scheme of things, they don't feel like a rival the way that the Rams do or the Seahawks do or even the Cowboys or Giants. This one is a little bit different. But they come in with a young offense with a lot of young talent, and it starts with number 7, Bijan Robinson. When it comes to dynamic running backs in the league, he might be number 1 as far as young guys who are making a name for themselves and really exploding onto the scene. And everyone knew he had the talent when he was drafted. Everyone knew this is what would eventually happen. But this year, it seems like he's really taking off. Over 800 yards from scrimmage right now, over 100 yards from scrimmage in every single game this season. The only other guy that can say that is wearing red and gold, and his name is Christian McCaffrey. So you've got dynamic weapons for the Atlanta Falcons. You got dynamic weapons for the 49ers. We're going to break it all down in this one. This is going to be a complete episode. Lots of fun. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. Of course, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And I will be going through, my picks when it comes to FanDuel. I got a couple good bets. Those are going to be involved in this episode as well. And of course, at the end of the show, I will make my prediction on who I feel is going to win this game. So let's start talking about it, and let's start with the injuries. 49ers officially have marked Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall as out. So it was hopeful. I was hoping that Brock Purdy was going to be able to come back this week. But if you have any question marks, if you're the 49ers about Brock Purdy potentially re-injuring his toe, you don't do that because Mac Jones has played good enough to help you win football games. Mac Jones has been a very accomplished quarterback this season. So even though this is a tough matchup for Mac Jones, you still feel comfortable with how he's played so far. But one thing we do know, Atlanta's going to come after Mac Jones, and Mac Jones isn't a guy that can create outside the pocket. He's not going to move around. He's not going to escape very often. He'll do it occasionally, but for the most part, he's in the pocket, and he's a pocket passer. He's going to rely on processing information quickly and getting rid of the football. So no Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall. The good news, though, is Juwan Jennings is a go. Demarcus Robinson a go. Kendrick Bourne, right? Can Kendrick Bourne get 3 100-yard games in a row? We'll find out. He's been on an impressive streak. Fred Warner, of course, he's going to go on IR today sometime, depending on when you're listening to this. He will go on injured reserve sometime, probably around 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm not 100%. They got to create a roster spot because I'm expecting for the 49ers to activate George Kittle and Kevin Givens from the IR. Both of the practice windows have been open, and it looks like both are going to be coming back for this game. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling, if you didn't hear, went on IR yesterday. He was dealing with a calf. That frees up the 2 roster spots. 49ers get help along the defensive line with the interior defensive tackle Kevin Givens, and of course, all-pro George Kittle. But to make room, Fred Warner will go on the IR, even though, like Robert Saleh said, he's targeting a playoff comeback. You believe the 49ers can still make the playoffs. Fred thinks they can, and he wants to come back and potentially help. And then Yetur Gross-Matos as well, dealing with the knee and hamstring. I think the hamstring is the main one there. I expect him to start potentially ramping up next week so he could come back. So Kevin Givens was listed as questionable. I expect for him to play. Renardo Green neck, he practiced. I expect him to play. The one that's questionable that I think is still a possibility that he won't play is Upton Stout. He got hurt on the last play of practice on Thursday. He was held out on Friday. Now, I believe it's a low ankle sprain, so there is a chance Upton Stout is able to play, but this would be a loss for the 49ers. They would have to go with Chase Lucas. Lucas will do good when it comes to coverage, not as good when it comes to stopping the run. That could be advantage for the Falcons, so that's something to monitor. So we'll see if the young guy can get out there. Now for the Atlanta Falcons, safety Billy Bowman, he's out. He's still dealing with a hamstring. Safety Jordan Fuller, he's dealing with a knee injury. Former 49er, Ray McCloud, had some choice things to say about the 49ers organization when he left. Maybe not being targeted enough, kind of got upset a little bit at Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. Well, things aren't changing too much because he got sent home by Raheem Morris. Ray McCloud is not missing because of injury. He's missing because of conflict inside the organization. Ray McCloud is going to be out. And that's a loss, for them. He's an accomplished receiver, so he will be out. But they still have plenty of weapons out at wide receiver. Cornerback Clark Phillips, he's out. He's dealing with tricep and an illness. And then Jalen Walker, I was kind of excited to see the young rookie Jalen Walker play off the edge. He's going to be out. But they still have Arnold Ebiketie. They still have Leonard Floyd. They still have James Pierce Jr. So they have plenty of talent and young talent on the outside. But they are missing some guys as well. Questionable, tight end Felipe Franks. He's dealing with a calf. I expect him to play. Daquan Graham, I expect him to play. Jake Matthews practiced on Friday in a limited capacity. I think he's going to give it a go. He's dealing with an ankle that he hurt last week in the game versus the Buffalo Bills. But I think that since he's gotten this close, I do think he's going to play. And then wide receiver Darnell Mooney, I expect him to play. He did miss last week. He's been dealing with a hamstring. So we'll see. So that kind of sets it up. You see both teams have guys out. Both teams have guys coming back. A guy like Darnell Mooney didn't play. Now he's getting reinserted. I think the biggest one is Jake Matthews and how well he's able to move off the edge. If they can leave Jake Matthews one-on-one still with guys like Bryce Huff and Sam Okuanu, that gives them an advantage because then they can use the other 4 guys to, block the other 3 49ers defensive linemen. Plus they have Charlie Warner. We know what he can do as far as pass blocking and help. Good run blockers good running backs that can pass block as well with Tyler Algiers and with Bijan Robinson. So they have very capable bodies. Jake Matthews is a big cog to that. Now, if he for some reason can't go or is not as good as normal, 49ers could have an opportunity there, but he's still one of the best in the league. I have a lot of respect for Jake Matthews and what he does for that football team. Now, let's talk about the coaches. Kyle Shanahan and Raheem Morris, really good friends. They've coached together. They've had a lot of interactions together. Of course, Raheem Morris coached with Sean McVay. He was with the Rams. 49ers clashed with Raheem Morris a lot. They're not going to surprise each other. They know what each other does. They know the principles of each other's offense and defense. This is going to be a fun chess match between two minds. Of course, Kyle Shanahan is pulling the trigger and calling the plays. Raheem Morris, he turns it over to Jeff Ulbrich. We'll talk about him in a second. When you look at the offense, Kyle Shanahan's going to continue to call the plays, and he's been really good this year. Been having a lot of fun watching his film. This is one of his best play calling seasons. The way that he's putting all of his weapons, in places to be successful, scheming it up for Mac Jones, being able to adjust on the dime as defenses have given him all different kinds of looks this year. And so it's going to be fun to see Kyle Shanahan, especially with guys like George Kittle coming back into the fold. For the Atlanta Falcons, Zach Robinson, a former Sean McVay guy. When Raheem Morris went to Atlanta, he wanted to take that style of offense with him, and he got Zach Robinson. And it's a little bit different. Every coordinator has their own little spin on things. It's not going to be a carbon copy of what you see from Sean McVay, but there are the same principles that are involved in it. He does a really good job with it, and he's got the perfect running back and the perfect talent on the outside to be able to run the system effectively. And so far, he's done a really good job. Last week against Buffalo was a really good example of it. So they have accomplished play caller on offense. They have a really good head coach, and it continues with defensive coordinator. For the 49ers, Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh's got his hands full trying to figure out how to stop Michael Penix and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and all that's fine and good, but he's also got to figure out how to overcome an injury to his best defensive end, Nick Bosa, and his all-pro linebacker in Fred Warner, who was a coach on the field. This is not an easy situation to be in. Robert Saleh has been in similar situations, but not without Fred, at least with the 49ers. So this one's going to be interesting, but I think Robert Saleh is up to the task. I think this 49ers defense, now led by Tatum Bethune, is going to put their best foot forward in trying to attack and go after this football team for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that Robert Saleh is very accustomed to what that offense provides, what Zach Robinson and the offense is going to go with, and he knows a little bit about this talent. He's still been in the league for a while, so we'll see. Are they going to be hyper aggressive? Are they going to say, Bijan Robinson, you can't beat us? We're going to not just stay, quarter shell the whole game and sit with two eye safeties. We're going to come up with one of those guys in the box. Malik Mustafa is going to come up. Jair Brown. I want to see how aggressive Robert Saleh decides to be, or if he just says, you know what, this defense has been working for the most part. Let's stay status quo. Let's make Atlanta prove that they can run the football on us consistently, the same way he did against Jacksonville before he got aggressive. That's going to be interesting. For the Atlanta Falcons, Jeff Ulbrich, the former defensive coordinator for Robert Saleh in New York. So much familiarity there. So you figure that there's going to be some conversations, right? Kyle Shanahan talking to Robert Saleh about Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris, and then also Robert Saleh kind of giving Kyle Shanahan some tips on Jeff Ulbrich and what he's going to do. And Ulbrich, is a very accomplished defensive coordinator, very good, was, very sought after during the offseason where he was available. And, a lot of people in San Francisco, Matt Maiocco were reporting the 49ers were very high on Jeff Ulbrich. They wanted potentially Jeff Ulbrich if they couldn't get Robert Saleh. So he is well thought of in San Francisco, especially as a former 49er. And so Jeff Ulbrich, he's up to the task. He's going to be doing a good job. For the 49ers special teams, Brant Boyer, what's great about the 49ers special teams is I feel like it keeps getting a little bit better every week. There's still mistakes, but the kicking game has completely been figured out. Eddie Piñeiro's been perfect. John Weeks, and Thomas Morstead have been doing a good job as far as that battery. And then it felt like the kick coverage is getting a little bit better. Now, the only problem has been Sky Moore lately. Hasn't been doing a good job as far as, catching the punts in the touchback area. He's been catching them too deep. So that's going to be something for him to work on. But Boyer's been doing a pretty good job, especially recently, kind of ironing things out. And then Marquise Williams, the special teams coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, he's been there since 2021. They really like him in Atlanta, and he's been doing a great job. Now, I got to tell you about FanDuel. If you are going to bet, why not bet with FanDuel? Right now, the San Francisco 49ers are a 1.5-point favorite. It means this is basically a pick-em game. You just basically picking, hey, you think 49ers are going to win, Atlanta's going to win. The money line for Atlanta Falcons is plus 108, and for the 49ers, it's minus 126, and the over-under is 46.5. So this is going to be a fun one. They're same-game parlays. Right now, they have the 4-leg same-game parlay of all the, who delivers touchdowns. They got anytime touchdown scorer, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and George Kittle. If you make that bet that all four of those players score touchdowns. You bet $10, you win $218.92 because it's plus 21.89. So I'm going to make my picks later, but I wanted to go ahead and shout out FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. Now let's get into the offensive key matchups because this is going to be important. 49ers run game versus the Falcons is going to be a huge part of this game. So if there's one weakness of the Atlanta Falcons, it is their run defense. And it's not that it's a big weakness, but they give up 115 yards per game. Now, the problem is the 49ers run game has not been great this year. They are only averaging 82 yards per game on the ground. And why exactly would the 49ers run game all of a sudden get going against Atlanta? Well, it's a couple of reasons. Number one, it comes down to matchups. And when you look at Raheem Morris's defense and the way that it's built in a way that it gives you an opportunity to run the ball on the edge. And I'm not talking going outside and running toss plays. Those plays can work as well. They are very fast on defense for Atlanta. But it's kind of that position between their defensive end and their defensive tackle. They leave an opening to be able to kind of kick that 5-tech in and then knock that outside linebacker / defensive end outside and create an open lane. This is something that Kyle Shanahan did a lot against Raheem Morris when he was at LA. He did it a couple of different ways, but usually it involved one tight end starting, blocking that defensive end, and then either Kyle Juszczyk or a motioning second tight end comes through, and they get an extra kick and hit that guy out and try to widen that gap to give you an opportunity to run the football. I think that is still an opportunity in this game for the 49ers. 49ers can still run the ball if they get those looks, and I think that they can because of the edge players that are going to be playing for the Atlanta Falcons. And I brought up, I do have a lot of respect for these guys who are going to be coming off the edge, especially with the outside linebacker role. Now, we know Jalen Walker is going to be out, but they still have Arnold Ebiketie who can come and bring some pressure off the edge. And I do think that he will do, a solid job, but he's not exactly the best at setting a firm edge. He's more about bringing pressure onto the quarterback. Leonard Floyd, we're huge fans of Leonard Floyd in San Francisco. He played so hard last year, but he was the poster child when he was with the Los Angeles Rams for what the 49ers do as far as kicking that guy out. So I think that that's an advantage for the 49ers that they're going to have to take advantage of. And if they can't take advantage of it, it's going to be a tough battle for the 49ers to win this game. But if they can get the run game going and take advantage of that position, then I think they have an opportunity. And I think this is one of those games the 49ers need to get near 100 yards rushing at least. They need to run the ball over 35 times to really beat the Atlanta Falcons and have a chance. And so it should be heavy run. Will Jeff Ulbrich allow it to be heavy run is the bigger question, because you cannot get to third and long situations. They have 14 sacks by 10 different players. They have all kinds of guys all over the place, interior defensive linemen, edge rushers. Everyone can get after the quarterback. And so you just got to make sure that you don't get into third and long situations. But I sound like a broken record because nobody wants to be in those. Christian McCaffrey versus Christian Ellis. And this is, again, you got Diablo as well. These are matchups that I like Christian McCaffrey in every single week against linebackers from the opposing team. And I think it gets a little bit more difficult for Atlanta with the re-addition of George Kittle. With George Kittle out there now, you can't go safety on Christian McCaffrey. You could, but who's going to watch George Kittle? Are you going to go corner? You don't want to get a matchup of a linebacker on him. So I think it's an opportunity for Christian McCaffrey to get some looks. And Kyle Shanahan's been using his personnel groupings very good this season to find those looks that really work for him. Moving late, getting 22 personnel, getting a heavy look from that, a base look from that defense, and then moving out McCaffrey. Moving out, before it was Jake Tunges, now it'll be George Kittle in these situations where they get good matchups. And we've seen Christian McCaffrey consistently win, and that's why every week, if you go the over pretty much on McCaffrey's receiving yards, you've been successful. I talked about Bijan Robinson, 100 yards from scrimmage per game. Christian McCaffrey's doing the same thing. So he's been getting touches. He's been getting opportunities. It hasn't showed up so much in the running game, but in the passing game, he's been dynamic. And a lot of it is checkdowns, getting in the ball in space, screen passes. But he's very effective. And I like this matchup for the 49ers. of Christian McCaffrey versus Christian Ellis. Now, I want to talk about Kittle and Jake Tunges against Watts and Bates, the safeties for the Atlanta Falcons. And the reason I want to do that, if you just look at Jake Tunges and what he's been able to do this year, 25 catches for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns in relief of George Kittle since he's been out for basically all but one quarter of the Seattle game in week 1. Jake Tunges is actually outpacing Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts has 23 catches for 219 yards and a touchdown. And this is just an impressive stat. Jake Tunges has been so effective catching the football. The 49ers have a realistic number 2 pass catching tight end. So now it's going to be fun because they can run 12 personnel. And how do you match up against 12 personnel? Well, you can't have just a standard matchup because you're going to get 2 different looks. When Luke Farrell's out there, 49ers are more inclined to run the ball. When Jake Tunges is out there, they're more inclined to throw it. But they can kind of mix it up, throw you off, and have some success. But I think this is one of those ones that makes it tough because now if you put your focus on stopping George Kittle in 12 personnel, you still have Christian McCaffrey on the field. He's still dynamic. That creates a matchup for him versus a linebacker. And you have Jake Tunges as well. Do you cover Kittle with the corner and allow in 12 personnel one of those 49ers wide receivers to match up against a safety? It starts making some interesting personnel decisions for a defense. So I think Jake Tunges and George Kittle are an advantage over Watson Bates for that reason, creating matchup issues. And I think the 49ers have to be willing to throw it to Luke Farrell when he's in the game. I think they have to be willing to run the ball when Jake Tunges is in with George Kittle. But I like this look, and I love it in the red zone. I think this is where the 49ers can have a real advantage when teams are wanting to load up and get a heavy box, get a lot of defensive linemen in there and extra linebackers. Tunges has proven to be effective. And so getting him and George Kittle together, I think, could be fantastic. Now, the next one is going to be Mac Jones versus the Blitz. And the reason I say this is last week, Jeff Ulbrich blitzed the heck out of Josh Allen. He blitzed him at a 56% blitz rate. That is unbelievable. It was the most aggressive in the NFL this season. And the reason it's so significant is Mac Jones was blitzed a lot last week, and he wasn't highly successful. He was 8 of 14, 5.6 yards per attempt, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, and a 33.3 rating. If you're Jeff Ulbrich and you see how Mac Jones respond to blitz, you're absolutely coming after him this week. So Mac Jones versus the blitz this week is going to be huge. He's got to know what his reads are. He's got to find his hot route. He's got to get rid of the football. He's got to make good decisions this week. And I expect Atlanta to blitz him. Now, I don't expect them to blitz at the rate they blitzed Josh Allen. I just don't. I think they're going to come down a little bit. I think seeing that on film now, Kyle Shanahan, they could build and prepare for it. But I mean, this is definitely a concern for the 49ers, Mac Jones versus the blitz. But if Mac Jones gets some good looks, we've seen him. He can deliver the football on time, and 49ers can have some big plays. And they say, you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz. So if Mac Jones is up for the challenge, there's going to be some opportunities to get the ball down the field. And when you have players like George Kittle, you have the potential to have a whole shot play. He is a guy that can take it to the house. Now let's look at the defensive side of the ball. The 49ers defense versus the Falcons run game is going to be one of the key matchups for sure for the 49ers defense. The Falcons rushed the ball for over 151 yards per game. Bijan Robinson just had 180 yards last week against the Buffalo Bills. Now, 80 of that was on one carry, but still explosive run game. They bring in Algiers. He can do it as well. They are a thunder and lightning tandem. If you don't slow down the Falcons run game and they're going to run this ball for anywhere close to 150 yards, they're going to win. If you can keep them around 100, you've got a shot. So this is one of those things that's going to be big. This is Tatum Bethune. This is D. Winters accepting the challenge and going out there and getting a stop. And this is why I said, does Robert Saleh step up and have a safety step up into the box and go 8 men in the box and say, you know what, we're going to put it on Michael Penix and Kyle Pitts and Drake London to beat us, and we're not going to allow Bijan Robinson and this running game to beat us. I think that's going to be a question in this game. But if the 49ers defense holds up, I think they can win. Bijan Robinson versus 49ers linebackers in the passing game. I talk about this every week with Christian McCaffrey. Well, here's a disadvantage for the 49ers. Now, normally I would say this is going to be a heavyweight fight. Fred Warner versus Bijan Robinson, Bijan versus D. Winters. This is going to be a heavyweight fight. This is going to be great. But with Tatum Bethune, it's a mismatch. And with D. Winters has struggled over the last few weeks in coverage. So this is going to be a huge challenge for the 49ers. Now, Bijan Robinson doesn't catch the ball with the volume that Christian McCaffrey does. But when he does, he's explosive. So the 49ers are going to have to keep their eyes on Bijan Robinson and make sure that he doesn't get too much space. If he gets in space, he's going to be difficult to bring down, and he's going to be a problem when it comes to yards after the catch. This is going to be one of the key matchups for the 49ers linebackers this week. I wouldn't even be surprised when he goes to third down, and I brought this up before, for the 49ers to throw an extra safety on the field and have that guy go with Bijan Robinson. I love the matchup of Bijan Robinson and Marquise Siegel because Marquise Siegel is a guy that if you put him in man coverage, he will be right on top of him. Number one, there won't be any space. Number two, he is one of the 49ers fastest secondary guys at 4.3. I like that. But plus, he's a really good tackler, and you can't allow yards after the catch against Bijan Robinson. So if I'm the 49ers and it's third down, I want Marquise Siegel in the game lined up and covering Bijan Robinson in space. Drake London versus Lenore and Green is something I'm worried about because Drake London can make size everything. This dude goes up, he gets the ball, he's explosive, he's dynamic, and so I think this is one of those things that the 49ers are going to have to play really tough against. And one of the things about the 49ers secondary players is they play real physical. They play real strong. They come after guys. They normally play bigger receivers really well. But Drake London kind of has that ability to get up, get the football in air. And I wonder how many times he's going to get an opportunity to go up over the top and play physical with the 49ers cornerbacks. I think Demo's more up for the challenge. He just lacks in height. But I think Bernardo Green, this is going to be a tough test for him. And I want to see him answer the call. But I think this is one that's going to be a tough one, especially when you get inside the red zone and he can block you out and you could use that big body to his advantage. So I think this is going to be one of the key matchups in the game. And then 49ers pressure versus Michael Penix Jr. What is Penix going to do if the 49ers are able to generate pressure, and can they generate pressure? This has been one of the biggest struggles for the 49ers this season, is generating pressure since the loss of Nick Bosa, the loss of Yetur Gross-Matos. And Gross-Matos was one of the leaders when it came to putting pressure on the quarterback. Interior pressure was huge. Now the 49ers have been coming up with makeshift units to go out and try to get after the quarterback. It hasn't been great. And then they didn't finish. Last week they had Baker Mayfield dead to rights, and two defensive ends missed him. That can't happen against Michael Penix Jr. Now, I'll say this. Michael Penix Jr. is not Baker Mayfield when it comes to escapability outside the pocket, creating down the field with off-schedule plays. He's more of a pocket passer. He will move. He can scramble. So you don't want to overlook that. You don't want to get crazy getting out of your lanes, but you can come after him and attack him more. I look for there to be an uptick in blitzes again this week from Robert Saleh as they look to put pressure on Michael Penix, make him process quickly and make him get rid of the football and potentially create some opportunities for turnovers with your secondary. So I think that's going to be huge in this game, how Michael Penix handles the 49ers simulating and generating pressure. And I think they're going to in this game. I do think they'll have more pressure in this game than they had against Tampa Bay last week. Now, third downs are always a must. 49ers offense is at 45% of the time they convert. That's in the good category. Falcons, 41%. This is where the 49ers need to seize control, slow down that Atlanta Falcons offense by getting off the field. And with the Falcons just at 41% conversion rate on third down, you have an opportunity, especially because the 49ers defense gets off the field pretty good. They hold teams to a 33% conversion rate on third down. That's still right near the elite category. It's in the great category. Elite is under 30%. And for the Falcons, they're right there too, 32%. That's one of the reasons they're one of the best defenses, if not the best defense right now when you're looking at numbers in the NFL. So this is kind of a strength for strength when it comes to 49ers offense, Falcons defense. When it comes to 49ers defense, they have an advantage on third down. Is that going to hold true without Fred Warner? We'll find out. So far, it has. It held up in last week's game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's always a key. Red zone offense, both of these teams not great inside the red zone. 49ers offense at 42%. I think it gets better with George Kittle. The run game gets better. He's also a guy that is a really good pass catcher inside the red zone. I think it also frees up Jake Tungus as well to make some more plays. I talked about the advantage with 12 personnel earlier, and probably with some 22 and 23 personnel as well. So that is where the 49ers need to uptick. They need to get this over 50%. Falcons only 43%. So they haven't been highly effective in the red zone either. That's why they only score 20 points per game. They're a team that could easily average a lot more points, but they have somewhat struggled inside the red zone. And the defenses too. Falcons defense gives up touchdowns at 66% inside the red zone. 49ers at 61%. Crazy thing about the 49ers, they were, before the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, number 8 in the NFL, 56% that they gave up touchdowns in the red zone. But the Tampa Bay Bucs went perfect and really ballooned this stat. So 49ers got to get back to being stingy inside the red zone and forcing field goals. And the Atlanta Falcons, there's an opportunity there for the 49ers, but that really is weakness on weakness for Falcons defense and 49ers offense inside the red zone. They got to win the time of possession. 49ers win the time of possession. That's why I was talking about running the ball 35 times. I think that gives you an opportunity to win. You got to win the turnover battle too. Giveaways, 49ers have 10, way too many. Falcons just 5. Takeaways, Falcons do better getting the ball in their hands. 8 takeaways for the Falcons, almost where they wanted to be. They wanted to be about 2 per game, but they're doing better than the 49ers, who have only produced 5 turnovers and still have not produced a interception in like 14 or 15 straight games. It's got to happen at some point. They almost had one up in Stout. He got a penalty against the Jaguars. But they really need to generate some turnovers, because right now 49ers turnover differential -5, Falcons at +3. The Falcons are playing in the positive, category. The 49ers got to turn this turnover situation around. When they win the turnover battle, they win the game. When they don't, the Jaguars game, they had 4 turnovers, they lost. Last week, they lost the turnover battle again. Mac Jones turned over the football a couple times, one of those on him, one of those not, but still, 49ers just turning the ball over too much. But let's get to some wow, that's bold predictions.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be bold. It's got to be whoa. And these wow, that's bold predictions are brought to you by 49erscutbackshop.com, where you can get all your 49ers Cutback merch. Link is in the description section below. And I'm going to start on offense. And last week it went well for me. I hit on my wow, that's bold predictions. I had the 49ers getting their first rushing touchdown. That really worked out. And, I had Mikael Williams getting his first defensive sack. That worked out as well. And so, it was pretty good. I had them holding the Bucs under. I had the 49ers going 50% in the red zone. They did. I had them holding the Bucs, rushing attack underneath. It would have went well if they would have been able to sack Baker Mayfield. So one of the 4 was wrong last week, but overall it was pretty good. And I'm going with Jake Tungus to get a touchdown. I brought up his stats earlier. He's got 3 touchdowns. And you would think George Kittle coming back, it probably means that he doesn't have as many opportunities, but I think that he's going to get an opportunity in this game, because there's going to be a lot of focus on McCaffrey, a lot of focus on George Kittle in the red zone, and how are you going to cover everybody? I think Jake Tungus is going to get open. I think Jake Tungus is going to get a touchdown. I think he's going to continue to make plays this year. I do think that the volume of yards and the volume of catches is going to go down for Tungus. A lot of those snaps are going to go to George Kittle, but situational in the red zone, I think Jake Tungus has an opportunity to get a touchdown in this game. And then I got the 49ers getting their second rushing touchdown. I do believe that there's a weakness in the Atlanta Falcons defense when it comes to stopping the run, attacking those edge outside linebackers, going at them. And I think that that's an opportunity for the 49ers. And I think that they're going to get in the end zone again. I think the run game is not going to be elite like it used to be, but I think it's going to get a lot better this week. And I think that they're going to get a rushing touchdown. Now, defense, I think Deommodore Lenoir is going to break the streak. I think he's going to get an interception. I talked about bringing pressure against Michael Penix. I think the 49ers are going to generate pressure. He's going to get rid of the football quickly, and he's going to get the ball out, but it's going to get intercepted by Deommodore Lenoir. So I came close with the Upton Stout one, and he got a penalty. I had predicted an Upton Stout interception. I'm going with De'Amara Lenore with an interception in this game. I think the 49ers get a couple of turnovers against Michael Penix Jr. and this Atlanta Falcons offense, which is going to keep the 49ers in this game for sure. And then I think they're going to sack Michael Penix Jr. twice. I think he's more of a stationary target. I think Robert Saleh is going to turn up the heat a little bit. And I do believe they're going to have opportunities. I wouldn't be shocked to see Bryce Huff get another sack. He should have had one last week. And I think that they're going to come after him in this football game. And you have to. You have to go out there and come after him and don't let the game just come to you. So I look for that to happen in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of stunts as well for the 49ers defensive front. Now, we're going to get into the score prediction brought to you by FanDuel. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I got a couple of player props too that I want to get out there. I won on the Mac Jones over 250 yards passing last week. That was easy. I came up this short on the Christian McCaffrey. So I took the alternate one so I could get better odds. I had Christian McCaffrey getting 60 receiving yards, and he ended up with 57. So it was really close. If you just bet the over under, which was 53.5, you'd have won. But I went with the plus 60 so I could get better odds in that one. Now in this one, I'm going crazy, but it's my belief in what Christian McCaffrey is going to do in this game. And I got McCaffrey going 70 plus rushing yards in this game. And yes, I'm going with an alternate rush a number because I think that the odds are there. I think they're going to run the ball significantly better with George Kittle. I think 49ers will add an extra 15 to 20 yards just with George Kittle being back, and over 70 rush yards is plus 130. So I like my odds there. And then I'm taking Mac Jones with over 100 yards in each half at plus 110. He's been killing it. He's been getting a lot of yards, and I get it. The Atlanta Falcons, they only allow 139 yards per game through the air. That's fantastic. I'm telling you right now, Mac Jones is going to get 100 yards per half. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. And I think the 49ers are still going to run the ball effectively too. So I think that you're going to see this happen, and that's plus 110. Now, when it comes to the score prediction, a lot of people are going to pick against the 49ers this week. I'm not going to be one of them. I think the 49ers have what it takes to win. I think it gets a little bit tougher every single week. You still don't have all your horses back, but you're getting George Kittle. That's huge. And I think that that's going to be significant with the offensive production, and you kind of take that give and take, right? How many points more per game do you give up without Nick Bosa? Well, so far it was 3. How many more do you give up without Fred Warner? Last week, it was a little bit more than 3. So what's it going to be? Is it going to be 24, 25, points per game where you were only giving up, 19 without Nick Bosa? I think there's a possibility it's 23, 24 points per game that you give up. Maybe more people think more. I think they're only going to give up 24 points in this game. And I think their offense is going to improve by 7 points with the addition of George Kittle. Because of that, I got the 49ers winning this game 27-24 in a thrilling Sunday night football game that has everything you can ask for, from turnovers to sacks to big-time plays. I think this is going to be a very fun game, and the 49ers are going to walk away 5-2 and getting ready for the Houston Texans, but a big conference win and kind of rewriting the ship and kind of getting this thing back on target for this football team. A lot of loss last week. They get a win, which means with a 27-24 victory for the 49ers, I have them going over the 46.5 points, so I'm taking the over on that as well. So 49ers get the win over the Atlanta Falcons. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think the score is going to be. 49ers versus Falcons. I appreciate everyone that comes in the comment section. Schedule's been kind of hectic lately. I haven't been able to answer as many or talk to as many people. I still love to read the comments, and I try to find time to do it. And, I have a lot of stuff going on, but I want to get to this. So I want to tell you guys how much I appreciate you and everything that you do and how involved you are. And I see the same names, and I'm very thankful for all of you. Also, I wanted to say that I'm not going to be doing a reaction show after the game because I'm going to be attending the game. So I get to go to the Sunday night football game and go there and enjoy. So I'm going to be there, but I'll be back at it on Monday. So come by and check it out. And we'll be talking about 49ers versus Falcons. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.